Hello again, friends. Opinion article. The fish is sold, but it is cooking right now. It's all part of a smokescreen. The battle for a future is on. Several banks are suddenly closed. Imminent confirmation of the charge to the Supreme Court. The first 10 days of November will be incredible. A state of alarm and curfew decreed in Spain. Americans are arming themselves for the elections. 20% of people are awake, but 58% are still sleeping. The turning point will occur when the number of sleepers is reduced by 50%. Major events are expected before and after the US elections. Let's start. Despite the surprises that appear every day in the news, the fish has been sold for a long time, but it is cooking at the moment, and the first 10 days of November will be incredible, according to Don Carlos Pabellon. Although I don't know if he is referring to a blockade, a blackout, or a wave of arrests. It is said that the fish is sold when something is finished. There is nothing more to do or to talk about because the package has been delivered to its address. In this case, the expression comes from the fish sellers who did not have a schedule for closing their stalls, but when they had managed to sell all their inventory, they left until the next day, as they no longer had anything to trade with. All the fish was sold. The Latin phrase alia jacta est, which means the die is cast, could also be applied in this case to indicate that it's no longer possible to go back in certain situations. It's an expression attributed to Suetonius to Julius Caesar when he crossed the Rubicon River in northern Italy, the border between Italy and Cisalpine Gaul, the province assigned to him by the Roman Senate. This phrase appeared in Suetonius' Lives of the 12 Caesars. Through this step, he rebelled against the authority of the Senate and started the long civil war against Pompey and the Optimates. Ides of March. But the Ides of March 2021 swamp members around the world would be officially missing or disempowered by revealing the names of the imprisoned and tried elites, including videos of their confessions, by the Ides of March 2021. The Ides of March were days of good moments that began on 15th March. The holidays observed by the Romans since these Ides of March reflect their origin as New Year celebration. These Ides of March were the most famous because they were marked by various religious observances and because the assassination of Julius Caesar on that date in 44 before Christ was considered a turning point in the history of ancient Rome, marking the transition from the historical period known as the Roman Republic to the Roman Empire. Confusion. People are confused because they hear people like us talking about restructuring the economy based on precious metals and solid assets. But on the other hand, they hear of the World Economic Forum talking about digital currency in line with Mr. Roca Cruel's Scrum Plan, translated into Spanish. Saying more or less like in China, we will give you what you need to survive, but this is all you will get. This causes perplexity, uneasiness, confusion, on the mind because darkness confuses the contours of things and tends to mix things up in various ways that cannot be recognized or distinguished. Let's say that the mixing of churras and merinas is often a technique of darkness to confuse people. Mixing churras sheep with merino sheep would result in worse wool than pure merino, and the meat and cheese would be less tasty than those obtained from churras sheep. This is why you should not mix donkeys churras with merino sheep. So much so that 10% or 20% of the population is wide awake. 58% are still sleeping. The rest have no idea. We have to reach 50% instead of 58% asleep, which will be the turning point of the landslide. To allow the truth to come out, the Grand Coalition has set up a quantum economic system and a quantum voting system, and will implement a new quantum educational system. Beta testing of this financial system began on August 2020. Carlos Pabellón, translated into Spanish, is convinced that there will be a global jubilee of all bank debt next year. A clean sweep of loans for car, home, students, mortgages, credit cards, etc., and sees the stock market rising sharply next year. A smokescreen. The blockade to bring the old world order has been used by the coalition as a smokescreen to bring what we all expect. There is an international network of lawyers. We are suing those responsible for the deception on behalf of various nations. All this is part of a cover-up to make the transition from the old system to the new one. It is nothing but a diversionary maneuver. My feeling is that we would make the transition to the new financial system within the next 14 days. What the Grand Coalition is doing is not easy. It is a great struggle that will affect the fate of all mankind. We are entering a very important part of the journey because in the next 2 weeks before the elections things are going to happen that will leave everyone speechless because so much information is coming out. The facial recognition system works with a mask, but it doesn't work with a mask and glasses. So, if you are going to rob a bank, you need to wear glasses in addition to a mask, to put it mildly. The details of every person who has a bank account anywhere in the world are already recorded in a quantum system. It is a digital system that is at the same time a chain of blocks, but the physical money will still exist. What very few people know is that the Deutsche Bank nearly went bankrupt a few years ago, and the Chinese elders injected some money into it under the leadership of President Triumph. So they keep it afloat. But the president will tell you the right time to pull the plug on the Deutsche Bank to bring about economic change in Europe. Calendar of events. First, on Thursday, 22nd October, several U.S. banks closed suddenly and randomly for 2 weeks, until Friday, 6 November. All central banks have been in trouble and have laundered money for the unpronounceable traffic. Second, on the same Thursday, the bond redemption has been completed, and the payers and the lawyers have finished the paperwork by the deadline and then were subject to gag orders or confidentiality agreements. Third, on the night of Thursday, 22nd October, military personnel around the world were put on high alert for high naval confinement, while President Triumph approved the redemption procedures for Level 4B. Fourth, on Saturday, 24th October, the swamp attempted to initiate a restoration of the global currency using old codes that were not activated because they no longer worked. With codes that did work, on the same day, the Department of Defense kicked off a shotgun launch with 27 categories of primary accounts would be paid worldwide. Sixth, also on Saturday, October 24, the President signed an executive order to release $1.8 billion in stimulus funds to the public. These funds would be released at the same time as the expected liquidity for all exchanges. Seventh, Saturday, 25th October was the starting point for the international rate of the Iraqi dinar. Most of the exchanges and redemptions are expected to be completed before the elections on Tuesday, 3rd November, but Level 5 currency exchange for the general public is expected to begin after the elections. Eighth, the White House recently received a 1,500-page dossier from the South African government showing the theft of billions of gold and other South African assets by prominent and well-known figures. Ninth, Gene Decode has revealed that the Maya has meticulous records of every person and their ancestors for thousands of years, of how much they have looted from every citizen in each and every country of the world. News. Imminent confirmation of the judge to the U.S. Supreme Court. Republicans in the Senate imposed their will on Sunday and voted an overwhelming majority to advance the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett as the next U.S. Supreme Court Justice. There is no doubt that Barrett will be confirmed on Monday by the full House of Representatives as the Republicans has closed ranks around the anointed one. How can Boris Johnson now speak publicly of a great reset, while just a few months ago, when those outside the dominant media paradigm used this phrase, the Atlantic corporate media censored it as being conspirational in nature? A state of alarm and curfew in Spain. The Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez decreed a state of alarm on Sunday that he plans to extend until May 21, and which May 2021, and which will cover the application of a curfew throughout the country with the exception of the Canary Islands. The Americans are arming themselves with military equipment at a record pace ahead of the elections. There has been more than 20-fold increase in sales of such goods and military equipment this year, according to Bloomberg. Apparently, there are many who believe that civil unrest and volatility will not go away on their own after the elections. This is probably why online purchases of military equipment items. That's all for today, and thanks a lot, friends.